Spiritual Manthan.
Life often leads us down paths that feel uncomfortable, uncertain, and even isolating. But what if I told you that these very moments, the ones where you feel lost, abandoned, or unsure of where you're headed, are actually the clearest signs that you're on the right path? It's tempting to think that feeling alone means you've made a wrong turn, that maybe you missed a sign somewhere, that the struggles you're facing are proof of failure. But what if they're not? What if they're actually proof that you're in the middle of a transformation? When you're forging a new path, one that few have walked before, it's normal to feel lost. It's part of the process. In fact, it's necessary. So, if you've ever felt like you're wandering through a wilderness with no clear direction, stick with me. Because today, we're diving into why feeling lost is a powerful sign that you're growing, why solitude isn't something to fear, but something that leads to deep spiritual awakening. Ready? Let's begin. The wilderness is not a dead end, it's a beginning. Feeling lost is uncomfortable. It shakes the very foundation of what you thought you knew. One moment, life seems predictable, and the next, you're standing at a crossroads with no clear direction. The confusion is unsettling, and the silence can be deafening. But here's a radical thought. What if being lost isn't a mistake, but a necessary step in your transformation? Look at nature. Before a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it enters the chrysalis, a dark enclosed space, where its old form completely dissolves. At first, this transformation might seem like destruction. The caterpillar isn't just growing wings, it's breaking down completely, turning into something unrecognizable before emerging stronger and freer than ever before. Your journey is no different. Every great spiritual figure, every person who has ever undergone a deep transformation, has had to navigate their own wilderness. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before leading his people to the promised land. Buddha sat under a tree for days in solitude before reaching enlightenment. Even Jesus withdrew to the wilderness for 40 days before his ministry truly began. If the most powerful transformations in history required solitude, uncertainty, and a breaking down of the old self, why should yours be any different? The mistake most people make is thinking that feeling lost means they've gone wrong somewhere. But what if it's the opposite? What if feeling lost means you're on the verge of discovering something truly profound? When life is predictable and easy, growth is slow. Comfort zones don't force change. But discomfort? Uncertainty? That's where real transformation begins. When you step away from the familiar and into the unknown, you start to uncover truths about yourself that you could never see before. Think of it like walking into a dense fog. At first, you can't see anything. It feels unsettling, like you're moving in circles. But as your eyes adjust, you start noticing details you missed before, the way the light filters through the mist, the subtle paths hidden in the landscape. In time, the fog lifts, and suddenly, everything makes sense. Your wilderness, the time when you feel lost, uncertain, and alone, is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of something greater than you could ever imagine. You just have to keep walking. Feeling lost means you're moving beyond the old you. Have you ever had a moment where you look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself? Not in the literal sense, but in a way where you realize you're not the same person you used to be. The things that once defined you, your beliefs, your habits, even the way you see the world, no longer feel like they fit. That's what growth feels like. It's unsettling because it requires you to let go of an identity you've been attached to for so long. Think of it like a snake shedding its skin. At first, the old skin starts to feel tight, restrictive. It no longer serves its purpose. And though the process of shedding looks painful, it's necessary for the snake to continue growing. Without it, it would be stuck, unable to evolve into its next stage of life. Humans go through this same process. But instead of shedding skin, we shed beliefs, relationships, habits, and versions of ourselves that no longer align with who we are becoming. The challenge? Growth doesn't come with an instruction manual. When you start questioning everything, your purpose, your passions, even the people around you, it can feel like you're losing yourself. But in reality, you're finding yourself. You're peeling away the layers of conditioning, societal expectations, and old patterns to uncover who you truly are. Most people resist this process because it's uncomfortable. They cling to the familiar, even if it no longer serves them. But the truth is, feeling lost is often a sign that you're moving beyond an outdated version of yourself. When you clear out a cluttered room, it looks messier before it looks better. That's because you have to pull everything out, sort through what stays and what goes. And only then can you create something new. Your mind works the same way. When you start to grow, the old clutter, limiting beliefs, unhealthy attachments, fears gets pulled to the surface. It feels chaotic at first, but it's actually a sign that you're clearing space for something better. So, if you feel like your life is unraveling, don't panic. You're not falling apart. You're shedding the past. You're stepping into something new. And while this in-between stage might feel uncomfortable, it's proof that you're evolving into a version of yourself that's more aligned, more authentic, and more powerful than ever before. Why you're meant to walk this path alone? One of the hardest truths to accept is that not everyone can walk with you on your journey. At some point, life will ask you to take steps alone, to move forward without the support you thought you needed. And that's terrifying. As humans, we crave connection. We want someone to reassure us, to tell us we're doing the right thing, to walk beside us when the road gets tough. But what if some paths are meant to be walked alone? Think about an eagle. When it's time to soar to new heights, it flies alone. It doesn't stay in a flock. It doesn't wait for permission. It simply rises. Your journey is no different. There are seasons in life where solitude is necessary, not because you're being abandoned, but because you're being given space to hear your own voice. When you're constantly surrounded by people, their opinions can drown out your intuition. You start seeking external validation instead of trusting your own instincts. But when you're alone, that's when you really start to listen. Maybe you've noticed that some relationships have started to fade, that people you once relied on aren't showing up in the way they used to. It's easy to take this personally, to think you've done something wrong. But what if their absence is part of your growth? Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some relationships were only meant to last for a certain chapter of your life. And as you evolve, so does the company you keep. Think of a rocket launching into space. At a certain altitude, parts of it detach and fall away. Not because they're bad, but because they're no longer needed for the next phase of the journey. The same goes for your life. Instead of fearing solitude, what if you embraced it? What if you used this time to truly connect with yourself, to strengthen your intuition, to discover what you're really made of? Because here's the truth, when you walk this path alone, you develop a strength that cannot be shaken. You become someone who doesn't need to be carried, because you've learned how to stand on your own. And when the right people do enter your life, it won't be because you need them. It will be because they align with who you've become. Solitude isn't a punishment. It's an invitation to discover your own power, to trust your own path, and to rise higher than you ever thought possible. The hidden strength within you. What if no one is coming to save you? That's a terrifying thought, isn't it? We spend our lives hoping for a lifeline, a mentor to guide us, a friend to lean on, a miracle to show up just when we need it most. And sometimes those things do come. But what about the moments when they don't? What if you're in a season of life where the only person who can get you through is you? This is where most people break. The realization that no one is coming can feel like abandonment, like the universe has turned its back on you. But what if it's not abandonment? What if it's an initiation? Think of a baby bird in a nest. For weeks, it's fed, nurtured, and protected by its mother. But one day, The mother stops bringing food. She nudges the baby bird to the edge of the nest and lets it fall. Not because she doesn't love it, not because she wants to see it suffer, but because she knows it has wings. At first, the bird panics. It flaps wildly, terrified of the fall. But then, instinct kicks in. It spreads its wings, and for the first time, it flies. This is what life does to us. It removes the crutches, the easy paths, the safety nets, not to punish us, but to show us that we have wings. And you have wings. You just might not realize it yet. Think about a time in your life when you felt completely lost, yet somehow you made it through. Maybe it was heartbreak. Maybe it was failure. Maybe it was a season of deep loneliness. At the time, it felt impossible. But looking back, you see how it shaped you, how it strengthened you, how it forced you to become the person you are today. Strength isn't given. It's forged. And often, it's forged in the fire of solitude. So if you're in that fire right now, if you feel like you're falling with no one to catch you, trust that you're not actually falling. You're learning to fly. The strength you're looking for, it's already inside you. It always has been. Solitude is a sacred space for transformation. In a world that never stops moving, solitude is rare. We're constantly bombarded with noise, social media updates, text messages, news alerts, other people's opinions. But have you ever noticed that the most profound realizations happen in silence? When you remove the distractions, when you step away from the chaos, you finally have space to listen to yourself, to your intuition, to whatever higher power you believe in. This is why solitude isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. Look at history's greatest thinkers, philosophers, and spiritual leaders. They all had periods of isolation before their greatest breakthroughs. Buddha left behind his royal life and meditated in solitude before achieving enlightenment. Jesus spent 40 days alone in the desert before beginning his ministry. Moses wandered through the wilderness before leading his people to freedom. Why? Because solitude strips away the noise. It forces you to confront yourself, to ask the big questions. Who am I really? What do I want? What is my purpose? These questions don't come when life is easy. They come when you're in the depths of uncertainty. And here's the secret: your answers have always been within you. You just needed the silence to hear them. Most people run from solitude because it feels uncomfortable. They fill their lives with distractions, scrolling endlessly, seeking validation, numbing themselves with entertainment because facing themselves feels too hard. But what if solitude is actually the cure for everything you've been searching for? What if the clarity, the peace, the answers you're looking for aren't out there but inside you, waiting to be heard? The next time you feel alone, try this. Instead of running from it, sit with it. Ask yourself what this solitude is trying to teach you. Listen, reflect. Because in the quiet, you might just find everything you've been looking for. The universe is rebuilding you from the inside out. Imagine you're building a house. Before constructing anything new, you first have to demolish the old structure. You have to break down weak foundations, clear away debris, and make space for something better. That's exactly what's happening in your life right now. When things start to fall apart, when relationships end, when opportunities slip away, when life feels like it's unraveling, it's easy to panic, to think, why is this happening to me? But what if it's happening for you? What if life isn't falling apart, but falling into place? Growth isn't about adding more to your life. It's about removing what no longer serves you. And sometimes, that removal feels painful. It feels like loss. But in reality, it's clearing space for something better. Think about a forest. When a wildfire burns through, it seems like total destruction. But after the fire, the soil becomes richer. New growth emerges. The ecosystem thrives in a way it never could before. You are that forest. The difficulties you're facing right now, They're burning away the old, making room for new growth. The friendships that ended, they were never meant to go where you're headed. The job you lost, it was a stepping stone to something greater. The universe is rebuilding you, even if you can't see it yet. So when things feel like they're falling apart, remember they're actually coming together. Trust the process. The path ahead will become clear. Right now, your path might feel foggy. You might not know where you're going. But here's the truth, you don't need to see the whole road. You just need to take the next step. Think of driving at night. Your headlights only illuminate a few feet ahead, but you trust that the road continues. You don't need to see your entire destination to move forward. Life works the same way. Right now, you might feel uncertain, but the clarity will come as you walk. Every step you take reveals the next one. The right people will enter your life at the right time. The right opportunities will show up exactly when they're meant to. But first, you must trust the process. And most importantly, you must trust yourself. Because even when you feel lost, even when you feel alone, you are being guided. The universe, God, your intuition, whatever you believe in, it's all conspiring in your favor. So keep going. Even in your loneliest moments, you are never truly alone. The universe hasn't abandoned you. God hasn't forgotten you. Life isn't punishing you. You are being shaped, strengthened, prepared for something greater. So if you're feeling lost right now, take heart. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of something profound. One day, you'll look back at this season of your life and realize it was the moment that changed everything. Keep walking.